Hello and welcome to episode 199 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is August 28th, 2023. Today I'm wearing a loop scarf or infinity scarf that I called Geburtstagsloop, which means birthday loop. And the reason I gave the project this name is because I got both the yarn and the pattern for my birthday that year. So the yarn, I think it was a hand-painted yarn by Drachenwolle. And the book that I got for that birthday is called Knit Red, Stitching for Women's Heart Health. And one of the things I like about the book is that every designer in the book has either had her own experiences with heart problems or someone in her family or close friends had problems, and they all tell their story, and then they design something, and all the designs are knit in red color. There's many different designs in the book, but yeah, I really like it a lot. I was really happy when I got it, and I've knit a few of the projects out of the book, but not too many yet. I have too many books, but I'm still planning on knitting more out of that book, so you might see that again. But the first thing I knit from the book was this fairly simple but very nice infinity scarf, and it's knit out of 100 grams of sock weight yarn, and it's long enough to go round my neck twice if I want it a bit warmer. If I pull it really tight, I can even get it round 3 times, but that's just a little bit tight, so I would only do that if I'm really, really cold. And I have enough other things to wear for the rest of my body. If I only want to use this to get my neck really warm. Yeah, so that's my birthday loop scarf. And the top I'm wearing is called Lechfall top. It's one of Nicola Susan's patterns, and it's one of her either freedom or maximum freedom patterns. I knit it out of a cotton, what's the other thing? Oh, there's some other summery yarn in there. It's a mix of that, and you start back in the neck and then you increase stitches somehow, I don't remember. But I really like it. It's very loose fitting, which I like for warm weather. And I really like how the colors of the yarn came out. And it's a bit of a different neck shaping than usual. It's quite high in the back. And it has this slight stitch pattern on the sleeves. Yeah. Lechfall top. Nicola, I can't recommend Nicola Susan's patterns highly enough. They're usually very well written, usually quite short, so things aren't very complicated, but they work out really well. And I love the fact that for many of her patterns you don't need a swatch, or maybe you just need the swatch and a few measurements, and then you can knit your own. You can knit the garment to your own measurement. So I really like that. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. Oh, by the way, the Lechfall top is fairly new. I think I knit it last year. Could be 2 years ago. I keep forgetting these things, but it's fairly new. And the infinity scarf, the loop scarf, I knit 10 years ago. So that's fairly old. Not too old, but yeah. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. I have only one finished object today, but I have 3 new cast-ons. So cast on quite a few things. I will have to make sure to finish some things as well. Okay, so I finished crocheting the Julia Kragen, the Juliet collar or mini scarf, and this is what it looks like. So I finished crocheting it, I washed and blocked it, and I certainly had to start the second 50-gram ball of yarn. The first one wasn't enough. I had the last round at least started. I can't remember how much of the last round I did with the second ball of yarn, but then I also used that to crochet this chain with these little flowers at the end. So one end has 2 of the flowers and the other end has 3 flowers. And then you thread the chain through the shawl, and then once I wear it, I can sort of pull on the strings and pull it tight round my neck and then wear it so that this pattern sort of lies on my shoulders. Yeah, really happy. It looks a bit different from what I expected in the picture. This part was sort of standing up, but this doesn't work with this yarn at all. It's so soft, it just flops down. So I was thinking if I could pull the string through a bit higher so that when there's less fabric, so that maybe it would stand up. I may try that, but right now I pulled it through where the pattern says, and I still like the way this is ruffling and looking when I'm wearing it, and then I can make a bow, whatever. So to get these higher up so they are visible. Yeah, and I really like it. If you want to see what it looks like being worn, I have pictures on my Ravelry site. I have all my Ravelry pages linked underneath the video, so there you can see some pictures. And the other way, of course, is just to leave it long and wear it as a short scarf. That's also a possibility. And this is the Royal Alpaca by Hansa Farm. So these are the softest fibers that the alpacas possess. And it's a really very, very fine and very soft yarn. And the pattern is from this book. The German version is called Vintage Häkeln. I'm not quite sure what the English title is, but I'm pretty sure that I'm linking the English version underneath. Maybe it's the German, I can't remember right now. But it's by Kazuko Ryokai, so she's a Japanese designer. I'm pretty sure there should be an English version. And this is another nice book. Yeah, so that's my finished object. Then on to works in progress. And as usual, I will start with the socks I have on the needles. And right now I have lots and lots of socks on the needle. 2 of my 3 new cast-ons are socks. But the oldest socks first, I am knitting the Sarah Scott stockings out of the Blue Stockings book. And I'm using this color from the Opal subscription. And we are using this color in the pattern battle, where everybody who takes part has to use this color, but has to knit a different pattern. And I finished both the feet and finished the second bit of color work. And now I put both socks on the same needle, and I'm using the ball of yarn from both ends. And now I can knit the rest of the stocking two at a time, which means that the increases will be exactly the same, and I can just use up the whole yarn, and I know I'll have the same amount of yarn in both my stockings. Right now I'm just going straight, and I will try them on every now and then to check when I have to start the increases for my what's the bit called that's a bit wider than the ankle. Whenever I hit that part, I have to, or just before I hit that part, I have to start the increases, and then I might do a few decreases when I reach the knee and the ribbing, but I'll see about that. So the color work looks quite similar. The colors are quite similar. These are a bit darker than these. Yeah, so there's a slight difference as well in those flowers, but yeah, I'm really happy with what it looks like. From the pattern, you usually do the color work down here if you do socks, shorter socks, but I wanted the knee-high socks but still have the flowers down here. Theoretically, I could repeat the pattern just before the ribbing, but I don't think I will. Yeah, so these are the Sarah Scott pattern battle socks. Then the next sock that you already know are the Squiggley Madness that I am knitting as my sock couple for this year. So these are her socks and I'll knit a pair for him later on. And I continued knitting the foot. So there's only 2 of those squiggly lines that remain. And I decided to just knit some ribbing in between those contrast color lines, and the sole is just knit flat. And I'm using one of the rainforest colors from this year, and I'm going to use another of that series for his socks when I get to them. Yeah, so right now the knitting is fairly simple. I keep forgetting whether I need to cross the stitches or knit them straight, so I'm supposed to do it every other round, but I think I've gotten that wrong every now and again. I'm pretty sure I forgot to cross the colors here. For some reason I find it really difficult to read what I've done, but as it's called Squiggly Madness, I'm not too concerned, and if it's not completely the way it's supposed to be, that's okay. That's just part of the madness. Then, there's another kind of sock project that you already know, and these are the mini socks that I am knitting to give away these chips that you use for the grocery carts. And I just dropped one of the mini socks. So I think last week I showed you these 3 that came out really, really small. And this is an older one that I knit some time ago. It's a tiny banana sock. It was the first time I ever knit a banana sock. And this is the kind of key ring that I want to attach to all the socks before I give them away. And then last week I added 3 more socks. After I finished the color work in my Sarah Scott socks, I used that color to knit one of those mini socks. And this is the pattern that the Tin Can Knit socks in their Simple collection. It's that pattern in that sock. And then I used a different leftover bit of yarn to knit this sock. And I think that's the Hermione Everyday sock pattern. I just decided to use lots of different patterns this time. And this is some mysterious leftover yarn. And it was quite funny that the bit of purple that was in the leftover yarn ended up being right in the heel. I hadn't planned that at all. It just happened that way. And this is it's a sort of lace pattern that I have used several times for socks. It's just something that I sort of made up. But I think it's in every other pattern collection. Yeah, so I've added some more mini socks. I will probably knit some more this week and show them to you next week. But then the event is going to be on Wednesday where I will have to give them away. So all the ones that I still need, I will have to make this week. Yeah, so that's the mini socks that I am producing at the moment. Then the next cast on is the pattern is called Instant Crush, and it was a warm-up pattern for the Sock Madness this year. And when I saw the pattern, I decided straight away to knit them for my sister. But before I could cast them on, there was a call for a test knit for another pair of shorty socks. So I decided to do them first because they had to be done straight away, and decided to do these socks later. And later happened to be now. So I'm using the alpaca sock yarn by Hansa Farm, and the socks are knit toe up. So I started with the toe, and I'm now repeating the lace pattern that's on the foot. And then after the heel, there'll be a bit of a different pattern, and then the ribbing, and then there'll be a contrast color. So there's, as usual with Sock Madness patterns, there's quite a bit happening. I decided to do a different heel. So in the pattern, I think it's called is it a Fliegel heel or something, where you start, the heel is sort of like the one in the Sarah Scott socks. So you knit toe up, and then you start doing increases at some point, and then you just do this back bit. But I know my sister doesn't like that kind of heel, so I'm just knitting straight until I have knit enough of the foot and then I'll do the Fish Lips Kiss heel. I know she likes that, and then I'll switch to the other pattern, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's the Instant Crush pattern that I'm knitting out of alpaca sock yarn for my sister. And then the next sock that I cast on is another film reel sock. Yay, I started another one. But this time I'm not using a colorway from the Cats and Dogs series, because these socks are going to be for the older nephew of mine. And but he wanted another pair because his brother got 2 pairs of film reel socks, so he wanted another pair. But instead of choosing another color from the Cats and Dogs series, my sister suggested I use some gray yarn, because his brother has a blue pair and a gray pair, and their father has a gray pair of film reel socks. So I said, okay, I'll use some gray yarn, and I'm using this color from the Crazy Waters series, and that's a fairly new series. And I thought I'll use this moment to quickly show you the other colors as well, in the hopes that you can get your hands on some opal yarn wherever you are. So this is the gray color, and then there's another sort of mint color with this blue with a bit of gray in there, and then there's this gray and turquoise color that was also in the Opal Abo, in the subscription. So I already knit a pair of socks, and I think that was also from the Blue Stockings book, but it was the socks that aren't stockings, that are just normal socks. I knit that out of that color. And then there are 4 colors with green in them. So this is a very light green and blue color, and then we have this sort of purple and kind of green color, and then there's a very green color with a bit of yellow and purple, and then there's this nice green and red and pink color. So lots of green in this series, but Crazy Waters, maybe water's supposed not just blue but green as well. And then there's this really, really bright color that doesn't look like water at all, but maybe that could be the rising or setting sun. But I think that's a very beautiful bright color. I'd love to knit something with that. I don't know what though. So we'll see whether I get to do that. Yeah, so that's the series Crazy Waters, and I'm using that grey colour to knit another pair of film reel socks. I did the cuff, I did the white rounds, and then I had to stop because I forgot to bring black yarn, and now I have to add in the black. But yeah, I will try to finish those as quickly as possible with everything else that's happening, because my nephew might be leaving Germany soon. So we'll see if I manage to finish them before he leaves, or whether I have to send them, or maybe I'll just wait for either for him to come back and visit, or maybe his parents will go and visit him and they can bring the socks. We'll see. No pressure. Yeah, so these are all the socks for now. There's one more pair that I'll show you later. But just to be talking about something else than socks, we'll come to the garments that I'm knitting at the moment. And I continued knitting on my Lama-Pullover. And I continued knitting the front and back using my last 100-gram skein or ball of yarn. And I finished the stripe that I was knitting on. I think that was that one. And then before I started knitting this stripe, I weighed the yarn. Then I knit my rounds and I weighed the yarn again, and I calculated for how much I had left over, and I decided it's enough to knit one more stripe and then do the ribbing if I add white rows into the ribbing. So this is all the white that I have left for my first white skein, but I do have another one. So I don't have to worry about this. This is what I'm worrying about, but I think it should be enough to finish that stripe. Then I'll do the white stripe the way I did with the sleeves, and then I will add in white rounds the way I did here, but not exactly like here, but I'll be doing 2 rounds in blue and then 2 rounds in white, and I'll do that for several rounds, and I will try and cast off with the blue. So that's the plan for now, and hopefully I can do it this week, because this is a big needle, it's big yarn, it knits up fairly quickly, so I'm really hoping to finish it this week, and it's not quite that hot anymore at the moment, so it shouldn't be a problem to be knitting this really warm yarn. So this is another Nicolo pattern, same designer as this top, and this definitely is a maximum freedom pattern, so you don't have to do a gauge swatch to get a garment that fits you. The only reason to swatch would be if you want to know what needle goes with your yarn, but if it's a yarn that you've knit before, you know how tight or loose you want the fabric to be, then you can just start knitting, and then you knit the back, and once this has a certain size, then you can close to the round and you'll have a garment that fits. And then you have to do some measurements, or you have to try it on while you knit, and yeah, it's really easy to do. Very, very clever pattern that I am pretty sure I will knit again. The next garment I have on my needle is the V-back tee that I am knitting out of some sparkly yarn by Opal, and I have put in the second color. So as I've told you before, with this pullover, when you transition from one color to the other, you already have the third color in there if you have a third color, which I do. So I'm knitting the pullover out of 3 different sparkly yarns by Opal. So this was my color 1, and this is my color 2. It's very close to the color 1, but it's a bit darker. And then the third color I'm using is a gray blue yarn without any pink. But because both colors already have gray in them, it's really hard to tell in the transition which round is which ball of yarn. But I really like the way the colors sort of mix and match, and you can't really tell anything. I've put in a long cable just to show you what the pullover looks like at the moment. So this is the V neck bit that can either be worn in the back or in the front. And then the V shaping just continues down to the ribbing. And once I hit that point, I will start doing short rows to get the front and back to be the same height. But before that, I'll have separated the sleeve stitches. And this is the side with the round neck. It's a bit difficult to show, but this marker denotes the middle of the round neck. So this is where I do the measurements for the length. Yeah, and I really enjoyed knitting on this. I'm really excited about the color change. So now the next point I'm racing towards is the point where I can separate the sleeve stitches. And normally after I've separated sleeves from body, I like to do the sleeves first, but I think with this pullover I won't, because it's really difficult for me to estimate how much yarn I'm going to use from every color. So I think, unlike other times, I will actually try and finish the front and back first, and then see how much yarn I have left from my 3 colors, because I'm not supposed to use color 1 anymore, but I still have quite a bit of color 1 left, so I'm not sure if I'll have enough color 2 and 3 to finish the sleeve, so I may add in some color 1 again, but I don't know. I'll decide once I finish the front and back. And yeah, I'm already looking forward to the next color change, but first I have to get to the point where I separate the sleeve stitches. So those are the 2 garments. Then the crochet bit. I continued crocheting on the Wolldackel Strickschule, or however that is pronounced. So these are my 2 hand-painted colors by Wolldackel. I started with the light color, and then I had changing plans on when to start using the second color, and then I just did. Different from all my planning. I just decided it's now time. So I have this bit just in color 1, and then I started using color 2, doing 2 rows of color 2 and 2 rows of color 1. But then I got to the point where I did some slip stitches, and so the edge where I changed color changed, so I had to cut color 2, and I decided after crocheting 3 rows of color 1 to then put in color 2 again. So the placement of the color 2 as to the pattern has changed. It's really difficult to explain. So if you look from the back, this used to be always color 2, but now this is crocheted in color 1, and I've crocheted this part in color 2. Sounds a bit complicated. It's not really. I'm just doing whatever I like, and I will probably change where I have color 1 and 2 as I continue crocheting the shawl, and I might put 3 rows of one color in every now and then, just for fun. This is a very fun construction and fun shawl anyway, so I think mixing up the colors in different ways just makes sense for this shawl. And then maybe in the end I will only use color 2 for a bit, but no promises. So that's the crochet project that you already know, and my third new cast on is actually a crochet project, and I decided to crochet another square from Shelley Husband's book Granny Square Patchwork. So I was given this book as a present from friends of mine, and I've crocheted I think 2 of the squares back when I was donating squares to Viva Vittoria, but now I want to crochet a garment. And you know that I like to do partner look projects with my sister, and she decided to crochet a very simple granny square pullover, and I gave her some yarn that I bought when I was still at Wollerödels, this German yarn shop that I used to work for, and I got some black cotton that's a bit thinner than this cotton back here, and I bought the same yarn in dark blue. So I said she can have the black yarn and I can use the dark blue one, and we can have pattern look pullovers. But I don't mind a simple granny square pullover if the yarn is colorful. So I did that before and I gave that pullover away. So I might do another one for myself. But with the single color yarn, I don't want to do a simple granny square. So I looked at the patterns in this book and I decided to crochet this one. It's called Mayan, and I really like the way the pattern looks. I know that with dark blue it probably won't be quite as obvious, but that's okay. And I want to crochet 1 square for the back, 1 square for the front, and theoretically I could do the back square in a simple pattern and just do this for the front, but I may do it for both parts. I don't know yet, but this is what I've done so far. So this is the yarn. Not very impressive looking in the ball, but it's a very nice cotton yarn, and I really enjoyed crocheting the beginning of this square, and I can't wait to crochet further and see what it looks like. I'm not 100% sure how big this square is going to be. I just chose one of the biggest squares in the book, and if it's not big enough for me to fit me as a front or a back of a pullover, I'll just add some more rounds. There's some instructions in the book how you can make the squares bigger, but I could just improvise and crochet around. Yeah, so that's very exciting again. It's a very experimental project again. Yeah, so that's the other new cast on. And then we are already at the knit along section. So this is the last sock that I have on the needle, and that's the banana sock that we are doing as a knit along on my YouTube channels and in the Ravelry group. And last night I finally opened the discussion thread for the banana socks. So if you wanted to take part and show your yarn or show your socks, please feel free to write into the discussion thread, even if most of it is in German. You can write in English and I'll answer in English. That's no problem. And yeah, I'm using the Black Dragon yarn by Opal, and this is what I have so far. So has grown a bit, not too much, but a bit. And I've gone through one complete color sequence. So now I know which colors are in the yarn. And I've actually used this round counter to knit part of the sock in the dark when we were going by car at night. So that was very convenient, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to count the rows, the rounds in the dark. But just going one ring further every time I moved my stitch marker helped me to realize when I'd finished the 4. And if I had gotten it wrong and it was only 3 or 5, it wouldn't have mattered. And this side, without the marker, I knew I just could knit 2, purl 2. So that was very convenient. Yeah, so that's my banana sock. I did a tutorial video on banana socks in case you don't know how they work. They're really simple to knit. You don't have to knit a heel, so you can just give them away to people you don't know the exact shoe size. So they're very, very handy that way. And you can wear them yourself. You can give them to kids, and they will grow with the child. So because without the heel, it doesn't matter how big the feet are. So very convenient. Yeah, so I hope I haven't forgotten anything. I think that was everything. Oh, it was everything except for a secret project that I'm going to show next week. And I'll explain why next week. Yeah, but otherwise that's everything that I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!